I'm Jodie and welcome to a new video. So today I have another exciting book recommendations video for you guys. So if you missed my previous ones, I will link them down below. I have previously done She is the Villain, and I've also done a Villain Gets the Girl book recs video. So if you would like to see any other book recs, please do let me know. But today we have Enemies to Lovers books, but that have a knife to the throat scene. It's one of my favourite micro tropes. I'm sure it's one of your favourites. There is nothing better than the tension that comes from a knife to the throat scene in an enemies to lovers fantasy. Like, I'm sorry, but there is not. It is just a superior trope. I said it. You cannot fight me on this. So I do have some books to chat to you about today, and I'm really excited because there's some really good books in here. Okay, so let's just kick it off straight away. Let's get straight into it. So the first one we have is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Now, I actually haven't finished reading this book yet. I got into a slump and I got like halfway through it and hadn't stopped, but this does have knife to the throat. The tension. This is such a fun book. It has like nostalgic YA vibes, but add in like the Hunger Games. Like, this is very much Hunger Games-esque. If you love the Hunger Games but you wanted it to be romantic-y, this is it. This is it. It is so fun. I was loving this book so far. I really do need to finish it. But in this world, essentially the people who don't have magic are like outcasts and like killed, I think, or like kicked out of the kingdom essentially, and then everyone else does. And our main character doesn't have any magic, but she pretends that she does. And then one day she ends up having to compete in these trials with the prince of this kingdom, and she's trying to fake to everyone that she has magic. She's trying to survive. They're enemies kind of, but like they're kind of falling for one another more. Like, I think it's more like he falls first kind of vibes, and they're in these trials together. There's a lot of action, a lot of swoon worthy moments. I mean, the love interest, no words, no words. I just love this so much. It is so fun, and just the knife to the throat does it for me every time. This is just a really incredible book from what I've read so far, but I know everyone loves this book anyway. And yeah, like as you can see in the front, it says hunter destined for each other, so do with that what you will. Such a fun read. Next we have a classic, which I'm sure most of you have read, which is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This series, my god, this is enemies to lovers. This is hate to love. This is what we're talking about. You cannot beat it. The first time I read this, I didn't even like this book. I read it not long after ACOTAR, and I think that was why I didn't like it, because I was expecting like something like ACOTAR. This is very much different fae vibes. This is very much fairy vibes. And I didn't really like it the first time. I didn't get it. Then I reread it during lockdown, and oh my god, I freaking loved it. So good. So good. They really hate each other. He quite literally bullies her. She is a very fierce character. She literally holds a knife to his throat, and I loved it so much. Our main character Jude is living in the world of fairy as a human, and everyone kind of picks on her. She ends up embroiled in a romance with this vicious prince who we all love, called Carden. It's got betrayal, it's got politics, it's got romance. It is such a fun series, guys. Go and read this if you haven't. There's a reason that it's popular. It is so fun. And I just love Jude and Carden so much. So this next one is one I haven't actually finished reading either, which is Lightlark by Alex Asta. But I know this has a knife to the throat scene because I've seen things on TikTok to do with it, and I really need to pick this back up. I only read to page 60 when it first came out, but I've been meaning to pick back up again for a while because I know this has enemies to lovers, and it just sounds like a really unique concept. There's the island called Lightlark, and it appears for only 100 days, and basically there's like a deadly game that takes place during that time period where the rulers of the 6 different realms all have to fight to break their curses and win unparalleled power. So our main character is one of said 6 rulers, I think. Each of them has something to hide. Each's curse is uniquely wicked. To break them and save themselves and their realms, one ruler will die. To survive, Isla Crown must lie, cheat, betray, even as love complicates everything. So yeah, I know this has a knife to the throat scene, but I really need to continue reading this. There was a lot of mixed reviews on this book. Let me know your thoughts down below if you have read it. One of my favorite booktubers and booktalkers, Emmy, has read this and Nightbane and recommends this series all the time, and she has definitely reignited my interest in picking this back up again. I feel like I'm gonna love it when I get into it. It was fun so far. The only critique I had is the editing is not great in this book. Not the writing, I think it's purely the way it's been edited, but I really was enjoying it so far. The vibes are really interesting. It very much jumps straight into the story, so I do want to pick this back up again, and I'm looking forward to that knife to the throat scene. Next is another one that I haven't finished, which this is looking really bad for me, guys. Okay, I have a bad habit of starting books and not finishing them. I I've been in a slump for a year and a half, so it's happened, okay, but it's fine. I got about a third of the way through, which is the Hurricane Wars. I'm definitely planning to pick this back up again. The only thing with this is the world building is very complex, like I will say that. So that is why I put this on pause, because when I was reading it I just couldn't keep up. And although I was absolutely loving it and living for the enemies to lovers, I was just like getting overwhelmed. I was just like, I need to just have a little break, and then that break just turned into a very long break, and I've been meaning to pick this back up and finish it for ages, and I just haven't. I know I will love this. I know it's going to be like 4 or 5 stars, but the world building is, it's a little intense. But this is a Raylo inspired story, and there is this one scene quite close to the beginning where she has her knife to his throat, and my god, it was an epic scene. There is some fan art, or maybe it's art that the author commissioned, one of the two, on her Instagram page, where it depicts that scene but in a Studio Ghibli style, and my goodness, like I will put it on the screen here, like look at this. This was just, oh, it was so good to read about. This is very much enemies to lovers. It's light versus dark. They're on opposing sides of a war, lots of politics, lots of fantasy, as in like this world is insane. Very much Star Wars vibes, Stormtroopers vibes, all of that. Kind of not spaceships, but like ships in the air kind of vibe. Yeah, this is just, it is so good from what I've read so far, and I cannot wait to actually finish reading this. But the enemies to lovers and the knife to the throat scene was truly epic in here. And yeah, if you're a Raylo girly, then you would definitely love this one. But I feel like that art I just showed is enough to make you want to read this book. Next we have a book I have actually read and finished, which is Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is such a good fantasy romance, especially if you love vampires. I feel like vampires is very saturated, but also there's just not enough of it. And I do feel like the vampires in here were very unique, and they also do have wings, which I like. Some of them have wings. I like that. Give me men with wings for reasons. This is a really good enemies to lovers one. Very much Hunger Games vibes as well. There is trials in here, like a tournament. The world building is very, very clever. It's centered around the goddess Nyaxia, who's the goddess of death from what I remember. I think I could have just made that up, but Nyaxia. And the way the world is explained is through explaining this goddess's backstory, and I think that is a very, very clever, very, very interesting. I love the world building and the politics in this world. And the vampires are scary. They are scary. They are gonna make you fear for your life. I love this book so much, and the romance, the just like slow burn vibes of the romance was truly stunning. The plot twist towards the end, incredible. So yeah, basically our main character is the adopted human daughter of the Nightborn vampire king, and she ends up in these trials with all these other vampires who obviously want to kill her because she's human. And she ends up making an alliance with a mysterious rival who's actually her enemy, and things happen from there. Got knife to the throat, romance, enemies to lovers vibes. It is just such a good book, honestly. I did film a reading vlog for this with all my spoiler thoughts and stuff. You can find that on my Patreon. We did this as a book club pick last year or the year before, and I loved it. It's one of my favourite vlogs I've done. So if you were interested in that, you can head to my Patreon to watch that. But would always recommend this if you just like fantasy romance. So good. Okay, so next is one of my all-time favorite fantasy books, and that is Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. I read this entire thing in like one sitting because I just couldn't get enough. We have a princess who is a runaway, essentially. She has this secret kingdom. She ends up teaming up with her enemy to defeat her father and rescue her dragons. And yeah, there is dragons, there is romance, there is found family, there is everything you could want in a fantasy. This is such a good book. This is just not talked about enough. It's definitely started to gain a lot more hype, I would say, this year, but I felt like this book was so underrated for so long because it is truly a masterpiece. I honestly love this, and I'm going to reread it soon. This is the indie paperback, so this is the indie version. I read it as an e-arc originally, but it is being published traditionally this year, I believe in September in the UK, so there will be differences to this one, and I'm so excited to read that and see what Olivia has come up with and changed in that one. But oh my god, this series is so freaking good. So yeah, highly recommend this. Just trust me guys, okay? Read this freaking book. Read it. Read it. It is so good. And then the last one, I'm not even going to go into what it's about because it's a given. Everyone and their nan has heard about this book. From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. Vampires, fantasy romance, politics, a bad bitch female main character who is learning who she really is and stepping out the mold that people have forced her into, betrayal, darkness, lots of different things going on in here. This is a really, really fun book, although I haven't read it for quite some time. I read this during COVID. It has been a while. I still haven't continued reading the series because I'm very divided on whether I should continue, because I've seen some of the stuff that happens late in the series and that ain't for me. So we shall see if I will ever read the second book, but I would like to reread this at some point because I really did enjoy it. I love the vampires in this book, and I did really enjoy the romance and the knife to throat scene. I love that she always had like a dagger like on her, like, what's that thing called you put around her thigh, like a garter, or did I just make that up? I'm pretty sure Poppy in here does have one of those, but I might have made it up. I'm not going to go into this book anymore because I feel like everyone is very well versed in From Blood and Ash. Those are all of my enemies to lovers book recs with a knife to the throat scene. Absolutely love that micro trope. If you do have any recommendations, please let me know, because I love this trope and I will buy a book purely if I know this trope is in there. Like, just, it adds to the tension and the angst, and it just gets me every single time, and I love it so much. I just love enemies to lovers, to be honest, but add in a knife to the throat scene and you've got me in a chokehold, like, on a serious one. You do. It is just, it is like the ultimate combination in an enemies to lovers, like, so good. So yeah, please do let me know if you have any recommendations, but I hope you did enjoy these recommendations. If you have read any of these books, let me know your thoughts on them in the comments down below, and I will have all of these linked so you can check them out. I'll also have the links to my social media down below so you can find my book talk and my bookstagram and all of that good stuff. You'll also find a link to my Patreon down below, and that's where you're going to find early access to videos such as this one. You will also find the Serpent and the Wings of Night reading vlog, other exclusive vlogs, unboxings, hauls, all of that good stuff, a bi-monthly book club, a Discord, live shows, and lots of other exclusive content. It's all over my Patreon, so if you were interested in that, you can head there. The link is down below. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope you're all safe and well and reading lots of good books, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!